Welcome to the Laverne Church of the Brethren's weekly audio message. Here at the Laverne Church of the Brethren, we create a Christian community called by Christ to be inclusive, caring, and peace-minded. We affirm that people of any race, ethnic identity, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, age, economic status, faith tradition, or life situation are welcome in our congregation. We believe in compassionate service, stewardship of creation, respect for diversity, and nonviolent reconciliation for differences among all people, nations, and faith traditions. We claim no creed but the New Testament as exemplified by the life of Christ. We strive to follow the way of Jesus. And through these efforts, we seek to grow ever closer to the mind and heart of God. And now let us ground ourselves as we enter into today's message.
Good morning. This is a poem by Mary Oliver called "This World I Live In." I have refused to live locked in the orderly house of reasons and proofs. The world I live in and believe in is wider than that. And anyway, what's wrong with maybe? You wouldn't believe what once or twice I have seen. I'll just tell you this. Only if there are angels in your head will you ever possibly see one. For a while, I don't know how many years ago exactly, angel renditions and themes seem to be everywhere. I recall a lot of people sporting these little angel pins that they wore on their lapels or their shoulders that were supposed to offer to them protection and support. Angels in America by the playwright Tony Kushner premiered in 1991, and it was this complex, heartbreaking, and powerful commentary about HIV/AIDS and the queer community. And around the same time, television shows about angels were great hits. Some of you might remember Michael Landon in Highway to Heaven, and then Della Reese in Touched by an Angel. Both shows focused on angels who were sent to earth in human form to help people who were depressed or carrying a lot of trouble or pain. Through their interactions, these angels reminded hurting people that they were not forgotten and were loved by God, despite whatever they may have done or whatever they might believe about themselves. I watched a couple of the shows in preparation for today, and wow, they just kind of slam into you in that sort of Hallmark, sentimental kind of way. I had to watch an episode of Charlie's Angels just to pull myself together. But angels make frequent appearances in both the First and Second Testaments of the Bible. They are described as supernatural beings who may look very human-like, or they may appear more as frightening creatures. Many of them are described as having a multitude of wings and are sometimes accompanied by a divine light. There are good and fallen angels, and they struggle on a cosmic level. The Bible suggests that there are thousands and thousands of angels, although only 3 of them have actual names. The purpose of angels seems to be to praise and to serve God. They often function as mysterious intermediaries between God and humanity. When they show up, it's usually to relay an important message from God or to announce that something new is going to happen. In this sense, they often act as disruptors to the status quo. Something novel, something extraordinary is about to occur. Their presence is almost always startling and disturbing, which is why in Luke, the first words of the angels are often, "Do not be afraid." Our text this morning that Amanda read is a birth story, this one of John the Baptist. Zechariah, who along with his wife Elizabeth, were both descendants of priestly lineage, and they are described as being very pious people who lived according to the commandments and regulations of their faith. We learn that they were childless because Elizabeth was barren. Just an aside, in biblical times, it was almost always assumed that infertility was the woman's problem and also her disgrace. Finally, we learn that the couple had yearned for a child, but were getting on in years, and so the prospect was unlikely. Into this setting, the angel Gabriel appears to Zechariah and tells him that his prayers have been heard and that Elizabeth will bear a son. He is to be named John and will be filled with the Holy Spirit. He has a special and sacred calling, which is to prepare people for the coming of the Messiah. His birth, the angels tell Zechariah, will bring joy and gladness not only to him and Elizabeth, but to many, for John will be great in the sight of God. What is interesting to me in this story is that even though Zechariah finds himself face to face with an angel, he still cannot quite believe the message. He says to Gabriel, how will I know that this is so? For I am an old man, and my wife is getting on in years. Because of his doubt, he is struck mute and is unable to speak until after the birth of John. In this story, I am fascinated by that juxtaposition of this deep longing that Zechariah has for a child and his skepticism and doubt that his hope will ever be realized. It feels so human, this awful desperation for something, and side by side that persistent, nagging belief that it will never be ours or never come to fruition. How often it is that with each disappointment then, hope begins to fade, the longing is pushed deeper and deeper inside, and doubt and skepticism rise to the surface. This delicate balance of hope and longing and skepticism and doubt is a constant challenge, particularly within social justice movements. When you go up against powers and principalities, disappointments, failures, and losses are a given. If you naively expect that your dreams and longings for a more just and humane world will quickly be realized, you will be disappointed repeatedly. And if one cannot adjust to the hard realities of that struggle, then those individuals often wind up falling into despair and dropping out, weakening the movement. Likewise, if one has been so tarnished and has little hope that things will ever change or that a new reality is ever possible, such skepticism risks turning to bitterness and dragging others down with it, also weakening the movement. It is a creative and fragile balance, this intricate dance between longing and skepticism, between hope and reservation. It is in this tension that the hard work of social justice must be managed so that it can be sustained, flourish, and continue to move forward. Otherwise, it risks succumbing to either unwarranted optimism or paralyzing pessimism. In addressing this dynamic, James Baldwin wrote, "You think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read books." Advent is a time when we who feel battered, heartbroken, and even paralyzed by the harsh realities of the world with all of its wars and violence, its greed and destruction, its callousness and disregard, can pause, take a step back, and reconnect with yearnings and longings that are ancient and powerful. In the voices of the angels, in the miracle of the birth stories, in the joy of the shepherds, in the dedication of the Magi, in the presence of a child, Advent reminds us that a different reality is still possible, that God is still speaking, that the world is still alive with mystery, wonder, possibility, and hope. Across the ages, the angels continue to call out to us, "Do not be afraid, for your prayer has been heard." With the disruptive nature of their appearance, they pull us into this ancient Advent world of longing and hope, of mystery and delight, of weirdness and wonder, of madness and magnificence, where all things are possible, even for an old couple like Zachariah and Elizabeth, and maybe for us as well. I have refused to live locked in the orderly house of reasons and proofs. The world I live in and believe in is wider than that. And anyway, what's wrong with maybe? You wouldn't believe what once or twice I have seen. I'll just tell you this. Only if there are angels in your head will you ever possibly see one. Thanks be to God.
We're so glad that you listened to the message today. If you're looking for an open and affirming, peace-loving, and justice-seeking congregation, consider visiting us for in-person worship on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. We'd love to meet you.